There we go. All right.
Rita, I can try if you don't mind. I can try.
Absolutely. Okay, let's do that. Meet co-host. Yes. All right, so let's see. Hopefully that works. All right. So first line of business, this is a coffee tea chat. So as tradition goes, we are going to share what we are drinking. There is no judgment here. If you mixed your coffee and tea with something else, there is no judgment. So let's see who wants to go. We'll start with the doc.
Y'all, I had a long, hard day at work today, and I kind of left early to do this meeting. So I am actually drinking chamomile tea. So I'm hoping it'll calm down, today's long work day and just, have fun. So it's chamomile tea.
Okay.
I got a big old jug here.
There we go. All right.
So, yeah.
What about you? What are you drinking?
Me?
Joyce.
All I heard was what you drinking. So I'm actually drinking some vitamin water. I came home, we got some vitamin water. So I said I needed just a little bit more nourishment because I have some tea, but it's that sleepy tea. And I said, I'm not ready to go to bed yet. So got my good vitamin water.
Excellent. I love it. Uh-oh, Queenie. Take it, girl.
I feel seen over here. So I do have some tea, but I put a little spiked lemonade in it. I wanted an Arnold Palmer, but I needed him to have a little bit more kick. So I did a little spiked lemonade and tea.
I love it. I love it. Again, this is no judgment, no judgment. All right, Kelly, what are you drinking?
So I'm a tea drinker. So I've got my black tea with milk and honey. It's my go-to. So
Oh.
especially when it's cold, it's hard to regulate myself. But
I
yeah,
love
my wake up be awesome mug. So ready to go.
Love it, love it. All right, Eve, what are you drinking?
Well, I was gonna have coffee, but it's late here, so I'm having a cup of tea. And I don't know if you can see the cup. It's actually my husband's cup that he got for Father's Day. So I don't know if you can read what it says.
That's super cute. And someone just put in the chat that they're loving the mug,
Love it.
so I'm sure that gave them a real chuckle. Oh my goodness. Okay, and let's see. I am drinking. Let me see if I can put this in the camera here. Mine. All right. And I'm drinking just a regular Brazilian coffee. So in Old Town Manassas, there is a place called Ground Central. I think that's what it's called. And I had all these years, I had never gone over there. I went over there and I was like, I have to try your coffee. So they had a Brazilian, and so we brought it home. Carlos ground the beans for me, and that's what I'm drinking tonight. So I'm excited. Well, we are going to get into our topic of the evening. So, of course, this is all about women's history and Women's History Month, celebrating womanhood, celebrating just all the amazing things. And the overall theme of Women's History this month is about women who tell our stories. And so what I wanted to do was just kind of add to that about embracing change. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And, we're going to talk about different areas of life where we've had to really kind of embrace change. And when we talked about this, what we shared is that when it comes to embracing and accepting, many people accept change, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing how they accept it, because if something happens and you just really have no other options, you kind of have to accept change, right? But I always like to say embracing and accepting, the difference is like accepting is like what some people call the church hug, right? Like when you meet a stranger, you meet someone and you kind of give the whole extended arms out, barely touching bodies. Like that's kind of what acceptance is like to me, right? Embrace, though, we've all had that person who just gives good hugs. Like they just bring you in and you just feel so good and warm. That's really what embracing change is like, something that you really kind of turn the situation around and really embrace it. So that's our topic. I know we have people here, so feel free to drop information in the chat. Also, our ladies, feel free to drop your information in the chat. As we go in this conversation, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, put them in the chat. We want this to just be a nice, cozy conversation with you all. And then Queenie, were you able to get it streaming? I know, it's so, well, we're
No, it's
recording it.
not given an option to stream, which is bizarre.
No,
I don't have an option to stream to Facebook, YouTube, or any place.
weird, okay.
It's very weird.
I
Yeah,
can try with my one.
okay. Let me, I don't know if I have to, I think I'd have to make you, let's see. Let's make you, you know what, I'm gonna make you host for the moment and see if that changes it. And let's make myself co-host, so I still have some. Actually, I don't think I can. You'd have to make me. I have no power now. So let us know if you're able to stream it. If not, we are recording it. We did want our Facebook friends to be able to join in live though, so hopefully we can get that going. But in the meantime, let's get into our conversation. So, ladies, what have you had to embrace this year, the last, oh, it's being live streamed, yay! UK! Yes, awesome. Okay, good. So our Facebook friends will be able to see it. If you can just tag my page in there too, that would be great. Really, you can probably kind of tag everybody if you see.
How do I tag? That's the problem.
Oh, on Facebook. You know what? Let's not try to do too much. At least we'll be able to share it. If you guys want to go to Eve's page.
Yeah, I've got an open page, so
All right, so we're talking about embracing change. And who wants to kind of start first? We talked about some different categories of change. And it was really interesting when we were thinking about and talking about what topic we were going to talk about. So who wants to kind of start the conversation off? And again, if you want to drop in the chat, those who are here with us, you want to even share some changes that you had to embrace this year, and we can kind of talk about that too. So who wants to go first of our ladies? Okay. Go ahead, Victoria.
I might as well get it out of the way, y'all, because I'm so nervous. But the change for me was putting myself out there into the public platform. I've always been extremely introverted, and I've been in healthcare for almost 20 years, 12 years nurse practitioner, 5 years as an RN. But I can see a million patients one-on-one all day long, but putting myself out here on social media and Facebook has really been pretty scary. And so that was a huge change for me. And but my desire to help people and just put the information out was a little bit greater than my fear. So I just decided to do it anyway. And every day is a challenge, but every day that I do it, it gets a little easier. But when I first started, it was awful. I really had to talk to myself and push my way through it. But I'm like, I can't make a change being back in the corner against the wall. Because if it was up to me, I would just go hide behind a corner somewhere. I'm very introverted. So I would just like to fade into the wall, do things from the background. But it's like, in order to affect a change, I have to put myself out there. It doesn't feel good. It's very uncomfortable, but I've learned that you have to push your way through the discomfort. You can't let that thing overtake you. You have to overcome it. And so here I am over a year later, and it's still a work in progress, but I'm so glad that I did it. I don't regret it. And it's still a challenge, but so feel the fear and do it anyway. Go push yourself through those changes.
Yeah.
Don't let it take over you. You take over it.
Yeah. And even
So,
though
yeah.
it's still scary, when we talk about, again, kind of embracing change, right? Like, how do you feel like it's been worth it? Like that, do you feel the comfort of embracing that particular challenge?
I do. I grew up in a large family and from the South, so children were seen and not heard. So that was drilled into me, like your voice didn't count as much. You just weren't supposed to say much. So I felt kind of unimportant. So this is new. It's like, okay, speaking and all that stuff like that. So I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it and didn't give in to the fear. I really am. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I see oh, go ahead. Someone was about to say something.
I just have to add to what Vic is saying, or Dr. Donaldson is saying.
Vic is fine. Vic is fine. That's just the IG
But-
name and stuff.
I'm listening to you, and I grew up in the South, born in Philly, but grew up in the South, and I grew up in a space where you're right, you were seen and not heard. Now that never worked for me because I always had a question. I was so curious about life. And so I found myself always sitting amongst older people. And coming from the South, that's a no-go, right? You don't
Mhm.
take your little young tail, right?
Yeah.
And that was pretty much, but I would hide and listen. And here it is, I'm 40 plus years old, and I still love sitting amongst older people and listening. And now I can contribute. So when I'm hearing you, I'm like, oh my God, I remember being in that space as a young woman, coming from the South and be seen and not heard. But also one step further, when you're speaking it now in front of a camera, speaking to your audience, creating your content, here's what's funny about it. For women, oftentimes, the more we speak and have a microphone, the smaller our pool gets, right? When it comes to like, let's say dating or men that are intimidated by women
Yes.
with a voice. And on the
Mhm.
flip, a man with a microphone, people gravitate, and
Mhm.
their circle
Yeah.
just grows and grows and grows. But it takes a lot of courage for us to embrace, saying, what, I have a voice, I have something to say, and it's okay. Regardless of who falls by the wayside, who is intimidated by it, who doesn't even support me, I have something to say. And so I applaud you for sharing that, because I totally feel you on
Yeah.
all that. And just going, we must continue to just keep speaking our truth. Setting our intention to do well in the world. And it starts right here, oftentimes right here, the things that we say, the words that we speak out to others, and the words that we speak to ourselves. So I commend you, Vic, for speaking.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
that, yes. And you know what? You even touched on something that I think is worth even staying there a little bit, right? And the fact of, even if that's not necessarily like your particular insecurity, the truth is there is a challenge for us as women to use our voice, to amplify our voice. And oftentimes, it's not received well, like not even just among men, but even among other women at times, right? And Kelly, I know that I think you have like a psychology, something with psychology. So maybe even just weighing in on that, like what's your thoughts on just the difference between women and our voice, and why that's just not normally received well?
Well, I think that, for so long, there have, the history of colonization and the European empires, especially, you've got men who needed to be dominant and needed to be heard. I was thinking about this earlier, actually. I was like, women are strong, and even if it's in your suffering, or when you get past that and you blossom out, we have this strength, and this strong women don't need to be needed. I'm not going to be with somebody because I need them. I want to be with you because I want you. But I was thinking about this. I was like, you've got this subset of men that have been in control for hundreds of years in a lot of ways, that need to be needed so badly that they wrote it into the laws.
Yeah.
They're like, I need people to need me. So you can't drive without me. You can't have a bank account without me. You can't, I'm gonna make sure that I'm needed and that I'm heard. And it became the norm that a strong man would speak up, but that a strong man would keep his woman quiet, because that would show his strength by that his woman was quiet. And I think that it scares some people to see women speaking out, but it's beautiful and it's amazing. And, listening to the women here and other folks that we've met in some of the things that we've done, they have a lot to say. Nadine mentioned in the chat, choosing yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that when you speak up, you're choosing yourself. You're speaking your truth. You're speaking whether it goes with what everybody else does or not. And that is a bravery, and that is something that can be intimidating.
Y'all, I knew this was gonna be fire today. Oh my goodness. And while we staying there just a little bit longer, I want to kind of shift over to Eve, because I know in the work that you do, you deal with just the real challenge of women not having the voice they need, not having the power that they need. You're in the trenches with that. So I just want to get your feedback on this whole topic of women and our voice and not being able to use our voice. What's your thoughts on that with your background?
So first of all, I've really resonated with everyone here in terms of everything that they've said. And for me, I was the child who was quite, I wasn't outspoken. So like Vic, I'm quite introverted as well. And what I found, like, over the years, opportunities would miss me because I wouldn't speak up, or maybe even when I went to university, I would be one of those people who I didn't want to be at the front. I don't mind contributing the work, but I didn't want to be seen at the front. And throughout the years, and I felt because I had put myself in that situation, I went through so many years where I just thought I was just stupid. And the most beautiful thing about working with the women that I work with now, every time they talk, and I'm thinking, my gosh, that used to be me. But then I end up being a sounding board for them. And also I end up validating them for what they're feeling, because it's quite natural to go through life where you're not able to speak, you're not able to say what it is that you feel, because you're scared of people judging you, you're scared of people thinking, what's wrong with you, or just because you don't agree with them. And that can put a certain fear in you when it comes to speaking up. And what tends to happen is a lot of women, not just even women, we have to also remember men as well, but obviously this is about women. When you live in that kind of mental bondage, what tends to happen is now you start living in fear that you don't start speaking up for yourself. And I had to do a lot of work for me to be able to speak out now. And what I have found is, because you end up now becoming, you end up speaking up and you end up getting that confidence, it becomes so powerful that sometimes it can also, it can bring insecurities out of other people, because they will start projecting their own fears onto you to try and dim your light. So I really empower women to think about their journeys, think about where they're going. And as long as you are doing it from a place of love at all times, because sometimes there's pure confidence, but there's also vanity confidence, and we have to know the difference. So I always, say, as long as it's coming from a place of love, choose yourself every single time, because nobody else is going to choose you. I had to make the choice to choose myself, because I didn't come here to live for you, Letta. I didn't come here to live for you, Joyce. I didn't come to live for you, Queenie. I came to live for God. And I'm walking in that confidence, knowing who I am, knowing who has put me here. And for me, I'll be damned if any person walking on this earth is going to make me feel as if I am anything less than what God has chosen me to be. So that is what I really emphasize. I point to the women that I work with. We've got a small ministry we do every Friday. It's called the Circle of Faith Sisters, and always pouring into them and reminding them who you were created to be. And it's about walking on this earth with purpose, with boldness, because we are all here for a reason.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, we're getting even on our Facebook chat, people are saying that is so me. Yes, when I work with my female clients, I encourage them to meet themselves where they are. I love it. This is why conversations like this are so good, right? Because sometimes we just need to hear it said, right? And then we're like, you know what? I deal with that. Or it's just a reminder of even where we may have been at a certain point. So even it can fill us with gratitude that we've maybe gotten to a certain place. Joyce, I don't want to leave you out of this part too, because with you having children and raising daughters, how does this concept impact, like even the language that you use with your daughter as far as having a voice and being empowered? What do you want to share on that?
So much has been said, and I'm in total agreement with each and every person. And, for me, it was like getting to the root of that issue with that. Where did it first begin? Where did I first lose my voice at? And then begin to process it, because a lot of times we want to skip over some steps. But for me, I had to process each and everything that the Lord was bringing to my attention. So when I had my children, so I have 2 boys and a girl. So because I had lost my voice, and I was like, no, my kids are going to speak. It was constantly giving them what I was not getting, right? And so the Lord allowed me to embrace them, to speak to them, to have communication, because even though both of my parents was there, but we did not have communication. So it's pretty much I had to raise myself. And so I always said, when I have my kids, we're going to always talk about communication. It's okay for you to have your voice. It's okay for you to have your opinion, but we do things in a respectful way, right? And so I have a 14-year-old. When I look at her, I said, my God, that's not little me, right? Because of the attitudes and the frustration and the things that I had went through. She didn't go through the same things as me, but she's still missing that absence of her father. And so it's resonating in her attitude and the way that she talks and the way that she walks. But because I have been through that, I'm now able to express to her, to give her the tools. It's like, okay, I'm gonna need you to journal, because we most definitely got to say, why am I feeling this way today? And I say, are you missing your father? Or are you missing your mother? Because mommy hasn't always been the best, right? And so therefore I'm taking what I learned from myself, and also just making sure that I always get to the root of what's really taking place. And when Victoria was talking, we still have our little fears, but we go through it anyway. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, wow, you wouldn't even be able to tell that you was dealing with some fear, because it just looks good on you because of the Father that is on the inside of you, and it's just bringing your light. And so, yes, we do get fearful when we go into different atmosphere, but guess what? We do it anyway. We use our voice anyway. So much great stuff was said. But my main thing is getting to the root of it and really recognizing it and not being ashamed of it, not being embarrassed of it. Grab that coach, grab that counselor, whomever you feel comfortable with, that that's going to respect your feelings and to help you get out of that dark part. So yeah.
Woo. Yep.
I love it. My stepdaughter is 16. And I've been in her life since she was 3. So we've always been together pretty much, but I watched her and her friends and this group of women and young women, and they're amazing to me, how sturdy she is and how well that she knows herself. And I try to connect and think about when I was 16 and the things that I was going through, and she just doesn't have those same struggles. Wow. And I'm seeing that a lot with these teenagers coming up, is that they are so much more self-assured. And so much, they have so much more of a voice. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't and who are still going through troubles, but percentage wise, they just seem like there is more and more. And I think so much of that comes to this generation of women who have done so much work, who have come out and said, it is okay to go to therapy. It is okay for me to be strong and be myself and acknowledge myself. When I think about, a woman couldn't have a bank account on her own in the United States until 1974. Wow. In her own name, without a man signing off on it. So really, like, our generation is really the first generation of women that have been able to exist independently. Yeah. And the amount of work that takes to go from one generation to another has just been outstanding. And I can't wait to see what these girls are going to do.
Wow. I'm telling you, dropping so much gems. Everybody makes fun of me when I say that, but it's like, it's true. It's just amazing. And I remember reading this report that said, oftentimes parents will wonder, why their child is insecure. And they're like, I constantly told them they were beautiful. I told them they were special. And what this program was saying is that children don't necessarily go by what you tell them. They're going by how you view yourself and how you treat yourself. So to your point, you know, our generation, you know, I'll say like, you know, 30s, 40s, we're all about getting therapy, getting help. We're tired of, you know, no offense to the baby boomers, but, you know, baby boomers, you know, they kind of disconnected emotionally. They had some challenges, right? So I think to your point, we are going to start seeing some improvement as these generations come up because we are helping ourselves and they're seeing that. They're seeing like, okay, when you're broken, you can fix it the same way you fix anything else that's broken, right? So good stuff. Oh, and this was all just on one person's embrace. I love it. So let's see who wants to go next. I know that we had some similar changes that were embraced, but who wants to kind of share their own personal experience with what they had to embrace? Who wants to go next?
I mean, I'll keep talking.
I was gonna say, you know, I could pick somebody. All right, Kelly, you got it.
You know, we talked about social media and we talked about that a lot. And that was a big part of a lot of our lives. You know, going through COVID and, you know, people getting more into it. And, you know, I had talked about that for me personally. I had been on it, you know, keep in touch with family, watch the kids stuff and that sort of thing. When COVID came, you know, we're stuck at home and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have a Mary Kay party. Oh, we're gonna buy some Tupperware today. You know, like this was that became my social event. And then as an artist, you know, I started getting more into Instagram and having fun with it. And I wanted it to be a public account so people could see my events and see what I do. And so it is not about my family. It is not about a lot of my personal stuff. It's just about me. It's about my art. I'm having a good time. And that has really been a breakout for me personally, because it's not about anybody else. It's not about what anybody else is doing. You know, it's not about who's listening. It's just me showing what I'm making and having a good time. And you know, you talk about fitting in boxes and being a teenager. I tell you, I tried to fit in every single box there was in high school. Like, you know, if there was a thing, I tried to do it and like, it didn't fit. I never did. And it was very frustrating really until I got into my 30s and could just say, you know what, I'm going to stop trying to fit. And being on social media has really given me access to so many more people that are not fitting, and it's great. And, you know, they just bring so much light to the world, and I've been really enjoying that.
And I love that. And I know when we were talking about this before today's event, it was interesting because I know, Victoria, when you were talking about your experience, and we kind of laughed about it with TikTok, and you were like, you know, it's a dangerous, crazy world out there in TikTok land, right? But it was interesting because Kelly, you did, even though you both had kind of like the same challenge, you kind of had a different approach in that you found like you said, kind of like the warm side of social media. So talk a little bit more about that, because I know so often what's highlighted is all the bad stuff, right? And we're constantly warning about being careful on social media and the comparisons. But talk about the warm and fuzzy space you found in social media.
Yeah, I really have. And even my husband will look at me and goes, your social media is so different than mine, because I have just found so many amazing people who are out there looking to help each other and looking to be a community, not in the sense that we want to be homogenous, that we all need to be the same, but that, you know, we're going to be different. We're going to be ourselves, and we're going to be joyful about it. And I mean, that's how I found you, Lita. That's, you know, and, you know, it was so exciting when I found out that you were, you know, you're right here and I got to meet you. It was like, what? But, you know, you've got people who like to dress differently, whether they're wearing, you know, they like to wear their corsets and their gowns, you know, from the 1800 style. They want to dress like they're going to see a hobbit. They want to, you know, you've got people who are transgender, people who are just enjoy makeup, whether it's regular makeup, whether it's fanciful makeup. You've got people who are artists of different variations and just want to share what they're doing. And I think finding these people that have found themselves has been so good for me. And I absolutely love going out there, and because I own my social media, I take control of it and what I'm going to see and what I'm not. And that's what I choose to make it. And it's really a joyful space for me.
And and you guys weigh in on this, because I think that what I'm hearing really is because of you, right? And your approach to social media. Like you said, you're going out kind of finding and embracing, what's like some might say the weirdos or the what have you, right? Like that's how people tend to, term it when it's kind of different. But it sounds like, I think you're finding this joy because you're seeking out how are we the same? Even though we're different, how are we the same? And that's creating such a good experience for you. Are you guys picking that up too? And what she's saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm picking it up, and I'm also saying
Yeah.
that because of the way that you used to see yourself, now those are the people that are being attracted to you, right? So now you're able to give them the wisdom and the knowledge that you had to change over to become who you really are, not worrying about what Bobby is saying, not worrying about what Jane's saying. This is who I'm coming at, right? So if you want to wear that old fashioned town dress, wedding dress, like you said, that's how you come in. And because now you accept who you are, now you want people to feel the same way. And so even when I do TikTok, because I'm more so, I want everybody to feel good. So I'm always giving an encouraging word, and I listen to the Father to whatever he tell me to say. That's what I'm saying. So that's what gravitates to my page, because I don't like social media. Absolutely not. So I'm not the one that's looking, I'm going to post and I'm going to get off. But I noticed that those who are hurting and who just like, man, I just need that one word of hope. And I thank God for the way that he do things, because he leads those people at the right time to our pages. No matter what content that we're throwing out, it is needed for somebody. It is needed. So I absolutely love it.
Love that. And I'm hearing being intentional. I'm hearing that too. Eve, what were you going to say?
Oh, the way Joyce has just been talking, like my spirit is over here, like jumping, moving. And one of the things that, for me has been, for me, it's like with social media, I did have that feeling of, I just can't stand it. And for me, God was really speaking to me and telling me, first of all, to write, that I need to write more, that I need to speak more, that I need to come out of hiding. And it took a lot of disobedience, because I was very disobedient in terms of, I was fighting it in time, like every time I was about to go live, like, I just don't want to do it. But something in me would push me, that would be, so even when I talk, it's almost as though I don't even know, it's something takes control, and I speak, and as soon as I finish speaking, someone will come into my inbox and say, that word that you shared, that thing that you said, I've had people telling me that I saved their life just because I decided to show up. So when Joyce was talking, and it was like, from the moment I decided to step out of fear and really embrace, and I remember that it was a few years ago where I was just like, I'd never been on social media talking, and all of a sudden I'm lying in the bed, and the way I just said, I'm just gonna come on social media, it wasn't some fancy thing. I did not put on makeup or anything like that. Something in my spirit was just dying to come out, and I remember at that time I had read, I think I'd read the book of Exodus, and I was reading about Moses and how, God was telling him to, just go, say what you're going to say. And I was in that situation. I was asking God, how am I going to talk? Like, I can barely say something without having to stop myself or stutter or something. So how am I? And he just speak. So I went on, I was like, I just found myself talking. And then the next day I did it again. The next day I did it again. The next day I did it again. So I continued doing it until I got comfortable. And like what Joyce was saying, like when you show up, when you're in that space of authenticity and you show up, you don't care whether you've got makeup. You don't care how your house looks. You don't care where you are. all you care about is that message that you are trying to put out there.
Mm.
You don't care whether you spoke wrong. The amount of times I have made mistakes. I've got a YouTube channel and I edit the videos myself, but I don't even cut anything out because that's too much work for me. I just put it out there and like, you watch it, you watch it. If you we're human. I don't understand when people come on and then they're like putting all these perfect videos. No, not every, I don't have time for that. My job is to give that message, and it's so important when you get to that place. That's when you know you've reached a place of authenticity. That's when you know that you don't care about what other people think, that you are there for a reason, for somebody. And I always say, like, if I come on and I say something that's changed one person's life, I've done my job. And I think a lot of women are, are out there. There's things that they want to do. There's books that they want to write. They want to show up on social media, but they're too busy thinking about what other people will say. And, it's like you go through your whole life being fearful of people when the people that are actually out there looking at you, they're the ones who are more fearful than you. So you need to, whoever this message is for, is you need to step out into faith. You need to stop looking at what other people are doing and focus on your own business, why you're here. Because none of us are here to be mediocre. So that's what I just wanted to share from that. It's just,
I'm telling you, wow. And feel free again, our audience, our virtual audience, feel free to drop in the chat if this is resonating with you. This is good stuff. And I love this, the fact that we're talking about social media, because, and I'll get into it a little more later, but I'm one that kind of has that love-hate relationship with social media. It's like, I love that it's a platform to get your message out there.
Yeah.
But there have been times where I've negatively compared myself with other people. And you have to be, I think you have to keep the right mindset, like everyone is saying, right? Because it's very easy to get off and get it kind of into yourself. Like you said, like, this person's doing this, or this person is successful here, or why didn't I do this? I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, I've been that person. And I hope that, part of the whole purpose of our coffee tea chats is so that other people can see themselves in the things that we're just sitting talking about with coffee and tea, right? And I feel like hopefully that speaks to someone, like you said, hopefully someone, whether they're watching now, whether it's a replay, if you feel like you're just in this constant struggle, maybe that's where the shift has to happen. Like, why are you really there, right? Reading, I had a love-hate relationship with social media until I became intentional about my why I was using. Yep. I love that. I love that. Excellent. And Kelly, I mean, you really just like started this beautiful, like wonderful feeling around the social media.
It can be a beautiful space. Every space that you're in, whether it's your home, your workplace, you need to make that your space. You can control what kind of space that is. If your job is toxic, you can find another job, and if there's something going wrong in your house, change it. You can create that space around you to be a positive space, and you need to take that action to do that for yourself.
It gave me goosies, because I don't think sometimes we actually think of it that way, right? Like, we feel so trapped. And like you said, whatever space you're in, take control of it. Now this is live because y'all know I like to steal quotes. So too bad this is being recorded, because that will be on a t-shirt, a mug, or oh my goodness. Okay. Let me see this message. Oh, popped up and disappeared. Let's see. I have come to the understanding that whoever is meant to hear the message will be drawn to it. And if the post doesn't get traction straight away, that's fine too. I consider it to be part of the back catalog. Those who are meant to find it will.
Love that.
Who said that? I think that's Nadine. Yes, love it, love it, love it. Whew, all right, let's move on. So embracing change. Who is next?
Ooh. I feel like I'm up, right? I just wanted to, I think Joyce, I don't think you were in our last conversation, but I was the one that said, hey, for me with social media, I broke up with it, right? But I broke up with it because that was the chapter that I was in my life. I was in a chapter where it was time for me to fast, to take a break and redirect some of my energy. And I did. I'm a content creator, podcaster, all those things, but I also have a very demanding life. And for me, sometimes showing up when I had nothing to give to me was only going to do more harm than good, to myself personally. And I would try my best to come up with something, some type of content, but I was still grieving. I was still grieving my father's death. I was still grieving. I haven't told my testimony, but when I was 16, almost 16, I had a child I placed up for adoption. And so I took 26 years to find her. And I was in that process of finding her and grieving, had not been able to mend the relationship immediately, like in my brain, like my brain was telling me, and just giving space and time to happen. And then 30 years later, I was able to see her for the first time. So all of this was happening, during this whole COVID, time frame. A lot of people know that. I know that, I was a 15-year-old that was, assaulted and had a child and spent almost, over half of my life looking for her. So, and so I needed to take a break from social media because I speak about love, life, and all things relationships. And here it was a relationship that I was trying my best to build, to find closure, to bring closure to, just make a new, and it wasn't happening. And so I just couldn't give the content the energy that it truly needed. And I know that people were depending on me and relying on me. And so I need to take a break. I needed to be able to come back and give all of myself to, to my purpose. And my purpose is to continue to create these types of conversations and to bring people in and to speak about healing and overcoming and things of that nature. But here I was in the trenches, and grief had me, rejection had me, disappointment had me, guilt had me, embarrassment, all these things had me during that COVID time. So what did not have me any longer was social media. So I took a break, and and when I took that break, my chapters were ending one by one by one. Everything was happening the way it was supposed to happen. My connections were happening. My relationships were being rebuilt, and my faith was renewed, and all of these things. And so when I came back to social media, I'm back. I can be my authentic self, and I'm okay. And I make zero apologies, for even my absence. I also don't make apologies for not being my best self when I was up, because I was showing up and I was giving all I had. And I just didn't have anything else. And I needed to save time for myself and to pour back into myself. And so now I encourage people, do not feel overwhelmed. Don't feel the pressure that you've got to show up all the time when you have nothing even for yourself. I'm not a fan of working out of depravity. I'm just not. I just believe that we got to take some time to restore and to replenish ourselves. And whenever you have nothing else to give, you got to pause and you got to go back and figure out, okay, what's missing here? What's missing in my life? And that's what I did. And I see a lot of women, I think we work ourselves to the bone sometimes, because we feel like we got to, once we give a little bit, once we give it all, once we give more, there must be something else left. We keep on trying to give that. And then who's given to us? And so when I took my break, I started connecting myself with people that were going to pour back into me. And if they weren't, I couldn't stay. I couldn't connect. And that's really what I did. So when we talk about social media, although it's wonderful and great, and I'm totally not, I'm not in opposition to it, but I just say that when you are at your wit's end or when you feel overwhelmed, take a moment, because for those that are believers, God don't give you more than you can bear. So when you feel like you cannot bear, it's because you placed that on yourself. And so be wise enough and courageous enough to turn around and say, I've had enough and I need a moment for myself. That's what I did with social media. But I'm back, y'all.
Okay, first of all, I mean, I had to like just take a moment within because of course, obviously I didn't know any of this that you're sharing, right? And I I really want to ask you a question because to your point, I think so many of us struggle with that. And it doesn't have to be social media, right? Just in certain aspects of our life, whether we're a mom, a wife, a driven career person, right? It can be very hard to stop and to overcome the fear because I think that's what it is. It's a fear of if I step away from this, then what happens, right? So can you talk about right, Kelly, you did literally you did the exactly how we feel about it, right? So Queenie, how first, I guess my question is kind of two parts. Have you always been that type of person? And then I guess the second part, whether that's yes or no, like how can we get there? How can we make that decision to do that?
Yes, I think I've always been that person. But I've also been that person that has taken on far more than I ever should have. But what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose their soul? Right? So you put all this on you and you're losing yourself in the midst of it. Other people won't always tell you that that's enough because they still want to drink from the cup. You have to know when your enough is, and it has to be okay. I think I really start living in this truth when I saw how selfish people can be with your time and what you offer. And I try to be mindful of people, even their time. But I realize that others around you, they are not that mindful. And sometimes people are just selfish and don't even realize it. They don't even know that they're selfish because they think that they're entitled to what you have. Even if it's your voice, your time, your ministry, your word, your money, your service, even if they're paying you or not paying you, they feel that they're entitled and they would do it until you are dead and gone. And when you're gone, they'll go find someone else to do it for them. And so wisdom has taught me that if you don't take time out for yourself, who's going to do it for you? I mean, now the undertaker is always ready for you, right? I use the old word, y'all. I'm from the South.
Really up here, I can barely breathe right now. Like I'm looking at all of our faces. I can't see everybody's face, but Queenie, like, wow. I mean, wow.
As
True.
women, we take on a lot. As women, we take on a lot. By nature, we take on a lot. We're groomed to take on a lot. We are groomed to take on a lot. But at some point, you got to say, you know what? I'm not going to show up today for that. Right? I'm going to show up for myself today. And be okay with it. And I think it was Eve that spoke it. Like when we do this in love, but listen, that's it. It's all in love, but I got to do this for me today. And that was really, truly how I felt. I forgave myself for letting people down and I asked them to forgive me as well, but I just wasn't able to show up anymore.
Anybody got anything to say? Because I need a minute.
Listen.
Eve, please, because
The way my facial expressions, I've been moving my face, I'm even tired. I was like, first of all, I think I resonated so much with Queenie as well in terms of, being pregnant at 16, and she was talking about the shame, the guilt, and also, my dad passed away like in 2017, and for me that was for me the biggest transition moment of really questioning life, questioning me as a person. I am, at that time I was at past 35 and I'm thinking, okay, who am I really? There's women who get to the age of 50, 60, they don't even know who they are. So I sat in that and I was like, so I thought about it and I was thinking, my dad didn't get to live out his dreams. and I know he had dreams. And how many more people are bedridden right now? How many more people are about to die as we speak that didn't live out their dreams? Because they're thinking about their shame. They're thinking about, you know, their guilt, what they did. So for me, you know, going through like having, you know, and I know Quinny can relate, having a child at 16, you know, the world will look at you sideways. And already there was this label on me that she would never get to be anything. She would never amount to anything. And I worked hard for most of my life for my girls. And I, you know, I ended up being a single mom again. But through that, I still continue to work hard because I wanted the girls to see me being somebody.
Yeah.
And I went and I got my degree. I went and got my master's. But guess what? Even when I went and got all that people said I didn't have, it wasn't enough because that's not what I needed to do. What I'm doing now doesn't even need a degree. Do you know what? The funny thing is, even with my clients, none of them have ever asked me if I've got a degree. None. They just want to know, can you help me? So even in those things that people place in us so that they can validate us, we need to be able to validate ourselves. And one of the things that is so beautiful about when you don't care, and I love what Quinny said, is you know, it's my time. This is how it feels for me. Like everything that I have been through is like, this is my time. This is my time to shine. I'm not thinking, this is a part where I'm not thinking about who else is doing what. I'm not thinking about whether, you know, whether they like me or not, whether they like what I'm talking about or not. I'm thinking about, I have gone through so much hell to get here, and nobody will take that away from me. I've prayed about it. I've cried about it all those years. So whenever you show up and when you start showing up as your authentic self, people are going to say, you know, you're full of yourself. They will confuse you actually saying no, and they will confuse you standing up for yourself to you being rude. But it's you having power over yourself and actually saying, you know what? No, I can't do this today. No, I can't do that for you. No, I need to take time for me. And I have been going to therapy, and there's one thing my therapist has said, and there's one problem I had, and was always saying yes to others. But from the moment I started saying no, I started to notice I was disappointing a lot more people because I wasn't saying yes, because I wasn't letting people walk all over me. And before, that used to be something that I would be like, oh no, because I was such a people pleaser, and I would want, you know, everything to be okay, and I didn't want conflict, and you know, I just wanted everyone to love me because I was seeking that external validation from others. But when you get to a place where you fully love yourself, you are content with people walking away. You are protecting your peace at all costs. You're not looking at sideways about what other people think. So I think it's really important that, you know, when my therapist said that people will always, every single time that you're saying yes to others, you're saying no to yourself. And she said that people will always look for the need that they have, not the need that you have. So when someone is, always notice this from now on, notice someone will call you with urgency that they need this, that's their need, it's not your need.
Y'all just
We need to be able to be discerning in our situations, in our relationships, in the places that we are in. So that's what I just wanted to add.
And they say, you know what they say is like, if somebody gets upset with you for having boundaries, they are the reason you need those boundaries.
Yes, that's the word right there. Boundaries. That's what I'm over here shaking in my boots. I'm like, yes, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Oh my goodness. And there's one thing that you had said, Eve, when you were talking about the saying no. Queenie, you said it as well. And so a lot of times we want to give a no with an explanation. God says, no. We just give a flat no. You ain't got to say no. I'm going to take me some me time. No, I'm just not going to do it. No. I don't have to give you a reason. And I mean, so much you just said, Queenie and Eve. I'm just like, I can't wait to listen to the replay because it is so much nuggets that is packed in this conversation. And I mean, God, I'm telling you, God look good on y'all because your testimonies, you don't even look like what you've been through. You don't look like it and you don't sound like it. And I knew Queenie was coming with a word when she took them glasses off. Did y'all see her take them glasses off? She says, hold on, because I got a word for you. And I need you to hear me and as well as see me. I don't want you to get distracted by nothing.
Oh,
She
Joyce.
took the glass. I said, okay, we all forward. But I thank you for your testimony. Most definitely thank you for your testimony. And I pray that you and your daughter are having a better relationship if you're not already, because I have a testimony. I'm gonna say it real quick where I met my sister after 47 years last August, right? So we're going on to a year. So we were separated when we was kids. Her mom kept her away, crazy stuff, which don't even matter to me. What matters to me is that the Father allowed us to connect and have when I'm telling you, this relationship is so amazing. So she was the one that was so worried about if I was to accept her. And, I had some things in my mind too. It was like, because I felt like I wasn't all the way together. I thought I had to be this big millionaire, all this stuff that I dreamed about, right? Because when I show up, I wanted to be all together, but it was okay. And so as we've been bonded, every month we get together, maybe a couple times out a month, just spending time together, just us two. And she was at a place because we both have siblings. And one of her siblings was like, oh, I want to join y'all too. She says, no. I have to be selfish right now because this one, she belongs to me for a moment. After a year, I don't care. Then we go do whatever with everybody. She was like, but nope. At this moment in time, it's about me and her getting to know each other. And as I was telling Lita, that I invited her to an event that we're having 1 year celebration to where it's not even about us, it's bringing the families together to pour into them the love of the Father. So somebody needs to know, no matter how long you've been praying for something, because again, 47 years, when it's God's time, is going to happen. And so I'm just excited. Listen, I absolutely love my sisters. I hope all y'all in DMV, but Eve, you in UK, I would invite you, but it'd be a little ways for you to come here just for one night.
I've been working on it. I've been trying to get her here, y'all.
Listen, give me accommodation, I'll come.
This has been amazing.
Oh my goodness. I want to read, we have someone from our Facebook chat that says, hey, this has been my focus during the winter restorative season. I am now putting me first, taking a seat at the table and showing up in my true, manifested, authentic space. Woo! Wow. Victoria, I feel like, look, we've been celebrating and I've been seeing you too. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I was just glorifying in the word of Eve because saying no has always been a big issue with me. And in my profession, like for instance, we see 18 patients a day, and you'll have patients who just want this, and that. And I am that one in the past who would just try to accommodate, and I would be that one there at work an extra 2 or 3 hours later charting because I went out of my way for all these people. And initially saying no felt kind of weird. It felt bad, like, because again, I'm from the South, and my mom was always the one that taught us respect your elders, or kind of be submissive, basically, is kind of what I was taught. I'm 47 years old, so I grew up in that old kind of fashioned way of thinking. So especially with the older patients and stuff, it was very hard. I can't do this right now. We'll talk about this next visit, or let's hang on to this later, or let's do this later. Instead, one visit is supposed to be 15, 20 minutes, and some people I will be in that room for 40 minutes. And it's like, okay. So as you can imagine, it always put me behind. So I would come home absolutely burnt out, stressed, exhausted. And then after a while, sometimes you would find those same patients that you go out of your way for would be those same patients sometimes that would turn on you later if you didn't give them what they wanted. So I learned that, you know what, just set boundaries, just do it in a nice way, just say no, because at the end of the day, I am the one suffering later. I am the one up late at night charting or making up for that lost time. So saying no has been a great thing. So it's kind of saved my life, and I'm still working on it, especially with the older patients, because I feel like, you know, be respectful to my elders. But regardless, you know,
And I
it's a
can
working
imagine,
process.
I can imagine
Yeah.
that it's hard for you because, like you said, that is your profession. I'm sure
Mhm.
there's a lot of judgment that comes.
Yeah.
You have to say no, right? When you have to put you first, because let's be honest, whenever we go to seek medical attention, we do feel
Mhm.
like we are the most important, person that in that moment, right? Um,
Yes.
how many of us have been waiting for a doctor and mad and irritated, right? Because we've been waiting and we're tired, we don't feel well, but not realizing like the doctor, the staff, they're just as tired and exhausted, right? So I'm
Yeah.
to share that because I think it does help us kind of think from the opposite side, right? Like we can all relate to feeling like what we've been talking about. Like we need to be able to set those boundaries and we sick and tired of being used and abused, right?
Yeah.
You bring out a good perspective in that. Let's think about from the flip side. Let's think about those opportunities that we have to change, to maybe not put so much on other people just because we feel like we're important right now and this needs to be solved.
Mhm.
Whether it's in the home, whether it's professionally. I think you bring a good perspective. Like let's look at ourselves too and see, are we making it hard for someone to say no and to put themselves first? Yeah, I really like that. Ooh, y'all I knew it. I knew it. Okay, let's see. Where are we left? I think Joyce, have you shared yet your embrace? What change did you embrace?
The embrace what I embrace is loving me because I did not know how to love me, right? So I would give love that I wanted to feel, but something was stuck inside me that I just couldn't embrace it. So I had to, again, go to the root of the things. And, it's like, what is it? Why can't I love myself, right? You hear all these good things that come your way, you talk about the affirmations and all that stuff, but my mind could not receive it because there were still some broken pieces that I haven't dealt with. So when I sat down again, all right, Daddy, what we going to do about this? I began to receive his love because I couldn't receive my father's love because he didn't love me the way that I felt that I needed to be loved. He loved me the way that he was loved, right? So he can only give me what he had gotten because he didn't know how to sit down and have a conversation with somebody to let them know this is the way that I'm feeling, right? And again, back in those days, they didn't talk about that. Boy, go hush. Boy, you fine. We love you. No. So what he did was he drank. I'm gonna say he drank. I ain't gonna call him an alcoholic, but he began to drink his worries because he didn't have an scapegoat, right? So he didn't know who to talk to. And so there came a point in time in my life, I began to take up that drink because I didn't feel the love. But when I got a little intoxicated, I loved everybody and I allowed everybody to love me. I was able to feel something that I wanted to feel when I was sober, if I can be honest. And so when I came to that place, it's like, no, it got to be better than this because I don't want to be not sober and feeling all this. I don't want to be sober and feeling this. I need to not be sober. Yeah. And feel it. I want to feel that thing. And so when I came to the truth of myself, I had to look in my mirror. Listen, always keep a mirror. Got to look at myself. Hey, self, what is going on? Why are you not feeling love today? What is it? What's taking place? What happened when you was that little girl? Oh, you went back to high school. You remember how they was talking about you. So still dealing with the rejection, still a bit dealing with the abandonment, the depression, just life, and having multiple abortions. So the guilt and the shame that still stuck with me, right? And it still stuck with me for many, many, many years until I finally looked in the mirror. God allowed me to see you in me. Allow me to feel your love. I don't want to feel man's love right now because it doesn't compare to your love, because that's just a temporary feel, because they can love me today and leave me tomorrow, but your love is everlasting. But when I begin to feel the love of the Father, now I can look in the mirror and say, I embrace myself, my love. I don't care if you walk away from me today or tomorrow, because it just means that our season and our time was up. So I embrace my love and the love that the Father has given to me. This is
Amen.
it.
Hallelujah.
Can't go back. So when you really embrace the Father's love, then you really begin to love yourself, and you even begin to find your true identity. A lot of times we don't know our identity because we don't know the Father that lives in us. So we miss that piece when it's like, oh, because I'm trying to be like this person, I'm trying to be like that person. We look at, so me, when I was a kid, I was looking at Whitney Houston a lot of times. I said, oh, I'm gonna be a singer, I'm gonna be a dancer, I'm gonna be in this entertainment field. Listen, I said I was even gonna be swinging on the poles, if I can be honest. But God says, no, ma'am, that's not your story. We're gonna keep you holy in fear. So to really embrace who I am and know that it's okay to show up in rooms like this and not have to be the smart one, not have to be the one that's always at the head. No, I can come into any rooms. I can go sit in that room with a millionaire and still be me and not change just because I'm amongst them, right? God give us manners. Most definitely, he give us respect. We have to use those things, but we don't change who we are. We go in that room and we like that room. We set the atmosphere. We are the changers, because when God places in those rooms, listen, something has to shift and something has to change. So that's what I'm embracing. Yes.
Don't.
Now, Joyce, did that take you a long time to get to that point? Was it like an epiphany? You just felt like that one day, or did this take time over time?
You know, it seemed like it took a lifetime, to be honest. So I think it began in 2018. At the end of 2018. I was lost for everything, right? I lost a friend from a motorcycle accident. I ain't want to live. My life was just like done, right? But I know I had the children. So I put that mask on. And so it was just like a wink of an eye that the shift in the mindset had changed. So what he did was he used that tragedy that happened to get me to the place where he needed me to be, right? Because at that point in time before then, I felt like I was stupid, I was worthless, and I was this and I was that. And it seemed like, again, it took forever, but the Father, he was molding me, right? You know, like that clay or that potter. That's what he was doing. It was like he was molded. And it was like all of a sudden 2018 came. He says, go back to high school, because I tried to go get my GED 3 times and it just didn't happen, because my heart desire was to go to high school to get the high school diploma and walk across the stage with the cap and gown on. He honored that. So he said, go back to school. And then another tragedy tried to take place to try to get me to stop when I was in school. But when I went to school, I began to see that I am this beautiful person. I am smart. I am wise. I'm not what my father used to call me. I'm not what the boys used to say about me. I am who God says I am. So for me, it seemed like it was a lifetime, but it was like a winking of an eye to the Father. So I had to go through those processes, but I didn't like it. I was like maybe 42. I was maybe 42 when it hit me, right? That was like 2018, because I'm like 48, something like that. And so, when it hit me, I began to see who I really was. So it's like, going through the process, had the coach, had the mentors, going through these classes. I took a class that was called Sisters Shopping Sisters, where you really got to the deep root of things, where you begin to look at your mirror, a little different assignments when we talked about self-esteem, because my self-esteem was low. I had low self-esteem. I was always overweight, and when I was young, it really didn't bother me, but it seemed like as I got older, I started going into a shell, but I just knew I still was pretty, because all the men, they was coming, but it was like sometimes for the wrong reason. But when I began to see myself for who I really was, like, nah, bro, I'm good. And so, but yeah, it started in 2018, where I was just really taking off all these masks. I was taking off all these masks, taking them off. But again, it felt like it was a wink in the eye. I tell you, it felt like it was just yesterday, where the Father was like, you have always been this way, but because of everything that had happened, it seemed like that wilderness, where I was in that wilderness for like 40 years. But once I got to that thing, boom. Now, do I have setbacks? Most definitely. But I pushed myself right back up quickly. I do not stay there. I tell myself who I am, because the enemy wants to tell us who we are not, right? And so that's when we go in there like, no, boy, you know who I am? My daddy is the man. He is the king. So that means I'm the queen. I got everything going on that I need. So you got to sit down with your lies. Because he'll come, just like even coming on here tonight. He wanted to come. I was like, boy, sit down. I am going, right? Couldn't find nothing to wear. He was like, get that purple shit. And here it is, you know, those emotions was coming. God, shut up and get up and go. We press through those feelings, because when we allow our feelings to control us, that's where we lose a lot. We got to control the feelings. And even as you was talking, the Father would say, hold on, let me make sure I said it right. He said, you have to take control of your atmosphere in your office space. Take control of your atmosphere. You know, you're going to do it in a loving way. So when it's time to get them people up out of there, like, yeah, okay, da, 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 da. Don't linger in those conversations with them. He's going to fill your mouth in order to push them out, because now you are taking control of your atmosphere. You are setting those boundaries. So they're going to have to honor and do what you're calling them to do, because that's your space. That's
Yep.
So I gotta take a moment. So we've got some comments from the Facebook chat. So Mario says, very powerful, Joyce. Be you in all circumstances, and that can be hard at times for many. It is important to remember your evolution leads to your revolution. And then I think I saw some in the here. Let's see. Speak, sister. Our trials are the lessons that highlight our triumphs, and our triumphs are the gateways to our testimonies. Woo! I love that. And you said something else that I think is so worth highlighting, because you talked about the mirror, right? And it's so worth highlighting because so often when we think about growth and healing and things like that, we try to do it from this external space, right? We want to go straight into like, I'm beautiful, you know, the whole affirmations, right? I'm beautiful, I'm powerful, I'm smart, I'm this. And I've even talked about this even in my book. The first step is to first look at the good and the not so good, right? Before you can heal, before you can change, you got to put that mirror up. And you got to be willing to really see everything that's there, right?
Absolutely.
That's hard to do. That's hard to do, but you cannot heal. I believe, and what I live by and teach others, you cannot truly heal and truly get to being the best version of yourself without first being truthful. If you have bad habits, you know, you choosing wrong men, or you're choosing wrong partners, or you're getting into these situations because of whatever stuff from wherever that stuff comes from, you got to fix that first. And it starts with being able to look at yourself and say, in fact, I remember, I'll jump real quick. I remember in my journey of healing and recovering and all that, I remember saying to myself, I don't like myself. And I was talking to someone and they were like, oh no, you love yourself, you know, child of God, all that. And I said, no, I love myself as being a creation, but I don't like myself. I'm doing some really wild stuff. I'm thinking some bad choices and I don't like it. That's not who my mama raised me to be. So I had to first look at that so that I can make changes. So I love that you said that. You said, put the mirror up every single day. I love that. Anybody else want to jump in there?
I think you have to be okay with looking at yourself and saying, I'm not perfect. I'm not great. And I love me. I don't like that thing. I don't like what I'm doing right now. I don't like how this is panning out. But you know what? That doesn't make me not someone lovable. That doesn't make me not worthy. I think, you know, anything you're going to do, you have to be comfortable with not being good at it. Anything you start, you have to be absolute rubbish. You have to do it horribly before you can do it well. So being okay with that is going to help you to become whatever you want to be the best at.
I love it.
Well, you know, I love that too. Lita, I just want to add, when you say like looking at yourself and there's certain things about self that you don't like, I think it's all about embracing those things too, right? We're talking about embracing, right? So embracing the things that you don't like, especially the things you want to change, they are a part of who you are. And I believe if you don't take agency over those things, someone else can use those things over you. And that is bondage. That is like a prison. And I don't know about any of you that are listening. I am not made up for prison. This here, I ain't built for it. Unless I earned it. And I ain't earning it right now. I ain't built for it. So I believe it's important for us to embrace, Kelly, Lita, Joyce, you're all saying the same thing, really taking a look at yourself. Like, I know my ugliness, I know my messiness. And those are the things that I hold up every day in an intent to change,
Mm.
in an intent to make better. They're a part of who I am. I don't weaponize them. I just try to clean them up. But no one can come and hold that over me, i.e. when I told my testimony, it's my first time telling my testimony openly about my daughter.
Mm.
And she's going to likely watch this and hear this. But no one's able to hold that over me or weaponize it. No one can use that as shame or guilt or any of those things. It's mine, it's my story. I walk with it every day. I embrace it every day. And I do know that the things that we go through will bless and help others. We overcome by hearing each other's testimony. So when we hold up and talk about these are the parts of my life that I'm not happy about, but I'm working on it, someone else can relate because they're working on their own mess, or they want to work on it, but they're scared because if they work on it, that means they got to face it. And I'm all about facing it. It's mine. And a lot of the things, this is one thing I want to add, because I'm hearing Joyce and even Eve, a lot of the things happened to us when we were children. Really wasn't, it was totally out of our hands. But we're carrying it as adult women. We're still carrying it because it's ours, it's part of us, and it's part of our secrets, part of our stories, part of the things that have condemned us. Wasn't even our fault. We're just still carrying it. Whether it was our environment, whether it was someone else placed it on us, whether because we were children and didn't even have an adult mind to be able to think and make a different decision. But as adult women, we can embrace it, hold on to it, help others to be delivered from that same guilt and shame, and tell our stories with dignity and respect because they're ours.
Whew. I mean, yeah, everything you all are saying is just so beautiful, so powerful. I think the one thing I will add regarding the changes that we've had to embrace, I made a post that said, the pandemic made me an introvert. And for me, that was the big change. Before the pandemic, always on the go. And that was my preference. You know, I'm always out, I'm always handling things I enjoy. I get energy by people. When I have problems, I need to talk to someone. Like, I'm that person. But, you know, the pandemic forced us into solitude. And something happened over the pandemic where for me, there was this shift. And I was forced to embrace silence and embrace being alone and not be afraid of it and not feel like, oh no, you know, I'm not talking to someone, or I'm not solving a problem, or I'm not doing this, so something must be wrong. I learned to actually embrace just a quiet evening at home, you know, a true Netflix and chill with my husband, right? I learned to embrace that. And what that did was, obviously, it allowed me to tap into aspects of myself that I wasn't even aware of, but it even helped my relationship, you know, because now we were able to learn things about each other that just were getting missed because really I was always gone, right? So that was my embrace moment. And, you know, I'm kind of still okay with it. I kind of don't, you know, I was telling someone I have a really busy week this week, going out a lot and a lot of engagements that I have to be like dressed up for. And I'm kind of like, I kind of don't really want to do it. I kind of like just the silence and the solitude. So that was a big adjustment and embracing for me. But what I want to do is kind of shift now. So since this is all about honoring women, I would like for each of us to share what woman has inspired you and why. Pick someone.
All right, I'll go. We had touched on this a little bit. You know, you always, when you're growing up and you're coming, you know, through life, everybody's always, who's your hero? Who's your, you know, who do you want to be like? And I love my mom. I love Oprah, you know, all these amazing women that are always out there that everybody goes to. But I never felt a core connection with anybody that really made me feel like empowered and made me want to drive forward in a certain direction. And honestly, where I have found that, what I'm looking at is the next generation coming up behind us. And these young women that are in their 20s, you know, in that genre, and the way that they are open and the way that they look at the world is so inspiring to me. You know, looking at this global community, looking at people as how we, you know, if you're doing better, I'm doing better. It's not this individualistic mindset that we've seen people have coming up ahead of us. And I'm so inspired by this next generation that it makes me feel excited. It makes me feel, you know, like I want to do better and do more. And, you know, I don't have one person, but.
I love that. It's so, I think I said it before, you are just such a bright space. Like, you're just so, like, literally, I feel joy, like, when you talk. So I appreciate that perspective. All right, who wants to go next? Inspired.
I think I'll share next. So there are so many amazing women that inspire me. Obviously Oprah, but there is one woman in particular that really, really inspires me. I'm telling you, when I look at this woman, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like she is the epitome of just strength. And it's a woman who probably a lot of women don't look at, because a lot of women are always inspired by other people. So, and I thought, why can I not be inspired by myself? So I am inspired by myself, which is,
Yes.
if you notice, a lot of women, we play down, we downplay like our achievements. We don't, every time we ask who inspires you, we're always quick to look at other people. But how about you start looking at your own journey? For you to have gone through that journey, for you to have achieved what you've achieved, for you to even just be here. And I think society has made us think that, you know, oh, if you've got a business or if you've got money or you're doing good. No. Let's start looking at the small things, the small achievements of even actually just being able, if you're someone who, you know, you've been fighting depression for so many years, but you got the courage and the confidence to get up and go to the gym and start working out. That is who you should be looking at. So I think for me, I really had to think about that. And it goes back to that mirror exercise. It was to stand in front of the mirror and actually say, you know, I inspire me, I love me. And once you have that reminder constantly reminding you of who it is that's in control, which is you start to be aligned to things that are of you, like, you know, what you guys were talking about, boundaries. You start to have those boundaries. You start believing in yourself more. You start taking risks in doing things that you probably would never have done. So before we can look onto others, let's start looking at us first. And I gave a talk some time back, and it was around relationships. Most people focus on the relationships with other people. But it's very few people who actually focus on the relationship with themselves. The number one, relationships. And the reason a lot of people are having, you know, so much addiction, so many people having mental health problems, it's the environment they're in, the people around them. Going through life, I had mental health problems, but I didn't realize the triggers were, the things were the environment that I was in, the places I was going. So start noticing yourself, start noticing what you like, start inspiring yourself, because once you start doing that, you will start to then eliminate things that are causing all this depression, this addiction, all these things. And you will find solitude. And being in this place where, as introverts, I love spending time by myself. I'm content. I can be in the house for weeks because my creativity will just be run. I'll be in my mind. So don't be afraid to be alone sometimes. I know, like, we've been taught to always look to people, always be around people, but sometimes it's okay to be by yourself. Take yourself out for dinner. Walk outside by yourself. You don't need anyone else to validate you. And that's what I want to live with all these beautiful women.
That was powerful. All right. Who's going next? Who's following?
I'm going to follow because I inspire myself.
Wait.
Listen, I was over here and I was like, wait, Jesus, I can't think of nobody. I was like, I just always say I inspire myself, right? And but it was in my, I was like, well, God, somebody gonna think I'm conceited and all that stuff. You see all that stuff just tried to come in your head just now? Devil is a liar. No, seriously, I'm totally in agreement with you. I never looked at any woman that I was really inspired by. I mean, I listened to them, they was good, but I have never been that one to say, oh, I want to be like Lisa Nichols, or I want to be like Oprah and all this stuff. Anybody I can say, when I was a little girl, but not within my adulthood, I said Whitney Houston, because I love her music. But most definitely, that's not who I wanted to be up as I was growing up, as I got older and began to see who I was. And so even here lately, I tell myself that I'm inspired by me. I encourage myself to be a better version of me. And so I just love the Lord, how he just uses like, girl, you better say that's what you say. So thank you for your honesty, but yeah, I'm truly inspired by where I have came from, where I was, and where I am going. And so that just makes me pat myself on the back versus want to go hide under the bed somewhere. But it's okay, because I had to go through those things because of some of the choices I made. And so I just look in the mirror and just say, man, I can't believe this is me, right? And I smile. So most definitely, I'm truly inspired by me.
Okay. Let's see. Victoria, Queenie.
I know, I just want to say I inspire myself too. I've come a long way from those South Carolina days. We were poor and all that stuff. So the stuff that I have accomplished, I am really, really proud of. I really am. So I inspire myself. But I also look at people like Michelle Obama. I know it's cliche, but I admire her because she took a lot of slack and scrutiny when she was first lady, but she handled it, I feel, with a lot of class and grace. And I love how real she is. It's like you ask her a question, she gives answers, and a lot of people are put off by that realness. But I actually admire it. I think she made a comment on one show not too long ago about how there were times when she didn't even like Barack sometimes, like, she didn't like, and some people just went crazy, like, why would you say that? But it's a real issue that maybe married couples experience. There are times when you wake up, maybe you don't like your partner every day, or you don't like your husband, but it'll pass, hopefully. But it's a real feeling. So, I just like her ability to be real and classy. And as a Black female, it's just something to look up to as I want to move up as well. Yeah.
I love it. All right, Queenie.
Look, y'all. Now listen. You done started something and then Joyce co-sign. Now look here. All right. Y'all messed my whole answer up. Kelly, I was like you. I had a particular person that I was thinking about. But I appreciate that these ladies centered themselves in this conversation. I am inspired. Chauncey, I've been influenced by so many amazing women of all races and backgrounds, all ages. And the person that always comes to my mind, other than my grandmother, who I've talked about many times, is my school guidance counselor, Miss Maxine Anderson, excuse me, she's passed away a few years ago. But she was the first white lady that encouraged me to make sure that I met Black women that were strong, educated, and were positive, and they were going somewhere, and they were leaders. And she always made sure I found books with people that looked like me. She would always point out individuals like Maxine Waters and say, you need to meet her. I was like 13 years old, and she was pouring into me. This just little white lady just knew the importance of me seeing someone that looked like me doing something. She knew I had something in me, and she saw it, and she poured into it, and she wanted to make sure that there was women that looked like me around me encouraging me. I didn't have it at the time because of my mother, but she wanted to make sure that I knew that these women were out there. So she would drop all of these amazing names of Black women that were living, and they were in leadership roles all across the world. And she made sure that I would write essays, or I would write paragraphs, or I could come and have a conversation about these women. And what that did was it helped to mold me into becoming who I am, because I saw myself through all of these women, and I probably would have never known who they were unless she had told me. And so she's the person that I always lift up, because I learned so much about myself through this woman that did not look anything like me. We came from two different backgrounds, but she knew that these were the things I was going to need to get me to my next phase in life. And I'm so forever thankful for that. We had a 30+ year amazing relationship, and I'm so thankful for having her in my life. And so today I can also say, Eve, Joyce, Dick, I also inspire myself, because I learned so much about myself through these women, through their stories, through their plight, and then looking at my own life and seeing the lives that I've been able to change and impact, and then put an impression on my nieces that are coming up behind me. They're always saying, Auntie, oh my God, we love you. Oh, you inspire us. Oh, you motivate us. Oh, we just want to make you proud. So I know that I am inspiring others, so I too inspire myself. So thank you, ladies, for centering that, because I would have never said it until you both normalized saying that in this conversation. So thank you.
Beautiful. And what I will add to this, so when thinking about this question, I realized that each time I've done this coffee tea chat, I'm selecting people, women that actually inspire me. And I've never actually acknowledged it. But I thought, you know what? Today, this one, year 3, I'm going to acknowledge that, because like you said, we have in our life, we're going to come across so many people that influence us, that we look up to, that we admire. But I want to take just a quick moment to share, you all have inspired me. Kelly, as I mentioned, you are truly just a person filled with joy. And I know when you and I have talked, you've shared some very heavy things that you've gone through, but you always show up with joy. It's like you're like, I'm not going to bring whatever I may be dealing with to other people. I'm gonna bring joy. So that inspires me. Joyce, again, I've shared with you when we first met, y'all, I was speaking at an event. Joyce came up to me and was just so humble and was like, what are you doing? How can I help you? And literally has shown up before I even knew all the amazing things. Like we hadn't even talked that detail. And then I'm like, so wait a minute, tell me about you. And she's like, oh, just a humble servant with a book and a TV show. I'm like, what? So that humility and that willingness to serve others has truly inspired me. Victoria, I followed you because I'm like this beautiful Black woman who is centered around health. And I think we've talked before, diabetes, which is something I'm dealing with, again, with my loved one that has dementia, and the connection between bad health. It inspires me to see someone, a Black woman who is like, and if y'all have not been following her, I know you're like, you're still getting your social media. Listen, she be on there dancing, partying, and giving you tools of how to be healthy. So that is inspiring. Eve, of course, from the moment that we met, like I told y'all, this woman is in the trenches. I mean, some of the stories that she has shared with me, literally, I mean, I tend to think I do a lot of work for the community, right? But when I hear the stories that Eve has shared with me, I'm like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Like, Eve, I just appreciate you truly showing up, like truly putting in the work in. And then that leads me to Queenie. Like, first of all, I keep joking. I keep saying this woman was on the streets with the homeless, y'all. Like, I don't think I can do that. But I mean, the heart of a person who will raise awareness around homelessness and actually do the work and be on the street to show like what they experience and what they go through. But also, I have to share, I don't know if you all know, but Queenie is also a hiker. And so she literally puts that work in, and she inspired me. I think I shared with you, but if I haven't, I'm sharing now. I was like, I can maybe do that. Maybe let me ease into it. At first, I was doing my little walk, my little mile walk, but it's inspiring. So you all inspire me. So I am honored that I got to share this moment with you all, share coffee tea time, and just continue inspiring, encouraging, being the amazing women that you are. I think to wrap this up, is there any last messages that you want to just leave to the women and the men? Because we've had some men both here and on our Facebook chat. So what message do you just want to leave to people that will leave them with just something good?
There's a quote I like from Virginia Woolf, where she said, throughout history, Anonymous was a woman. We've always been out there doing amazing things, but now is our time to keep being amazing and to own it. And when you own it, you're even more amazing. So yes, thank you, ladies, for all being so inspiring. And I'm so honored to be here. And thank you.
That was beautiful.
So for me, I had a reflection in terms of, first of all, I think it's Nadine who said something in the chat around no is a fully formed sentence. I love that, and I'm stealing that quote. I'm gonna do a blog about it in regards to boundaries. But definitely, I like that. And also, there's something else that I read on Oliver T. Reid's War, and he was talking about how people always say that they want to have a seat at the table, and we need to know, is that table for us? We shouldn't be quick. And I know sometimes it can be, when you're trying to do something, you want to be, there's this talk of, have it at the table. I want to sit at the table. But he said, how do you know God wants you in that table? So we need to be able to question ourselves. We need to be discerning in terms of where we're going in life, and we need to be intentional in our steps, in our spaces, and we need to be okay with actually not sitting at the table and actually creating our own tables. It's about finding out how, because we're all unique in our own way. And I feel because the world has diluted us to want to be the same thing on social media, people are losing their uniqueness. So why don't you start by creating your own home with your own table, so that you can invite us into your home with your own table?
That's beautiful. All right, who got the next message?
I think for me, the message would be to be authentic and be yourself. Since I did have a fear about getting on social media, but when I got on social media, I said I was just going to be myself. So you will see, as she said, me dancing. There's silly parts, there's serious parts, but these are all parts of me. And I find that when I am myself, it feels liberating. So it's kind of like, hey, take it or leave it. I'm corny sometimes, I'm serious sometimes, I like to dance, I like to do this, but whatever kind of way I'm feeling, this is me. So it feels very liberating when you are walking in authenticity. Yeah.
Well, I will go. Talita, I wasn't really prepared with quotes and all. You ladies, y'all came ready. I'm just gonna speak from my heart. The first thing that came to my mind was never to allow grass to grow up under your feet.
Mm.
If there's something that you want to do, there's no better time to do it than now. Now, is that's all we got. Life is so short. That is all we have. The other thing that came to my mind is we all should get used to hearing our own voice. Speak your truth, own your stories. They're yours. They're yours, and you control how the narrative goes. So own your stories. And the last thing I want to say about my own personal life, thank you, Nadine. The last thing I want to say about my own personal life is that my life is filled, my book is written, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chapters, but some tragedies, some triumphs, but they're mine. This is my book. I am writing it chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter. And those that are listening, I encourage you to do the same. Write your own chapters, honey. You do it your way.
All right, Joyce.
Listen, they said all that needs to be said. The only thing I need to say is, what's the name of my TV show? Unleash Your Uniqueness. Show up. It's time. They say all the pieces, and the last words that we need to say is unleash your uniqueness and flourish, because somebody most definitely needs you. It's not about you. It's about the people that is assigned to us. So we got to get moving. So thank you again for allowing me to come and share. I mean, I done met my new sisters. It's like we sitting at the couches together, as I was telling Lita before. I said, man, it's like I can visualize us all at the table. And I'm telling you, my heart has just been touched. I have been blessed. I love how God, he's bringing new people into my life, and I am honored. And Lita, I just absolutely just love you from the moon and the stars. I mean, she is just a gem. And I know each and every one of you guys can agree with that, because man, she just blessed my life from the day I seen her get up on the stage. And it was like, oh, Jesus, how can I serve her? He says, just go ask her. And so I'm always here to help and serve any way that I can, because you are a true woman of God. And I appreciate each and every one of you ladies. And I can't wait to meet y'all in person. Amen. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I want to just make sure any of that are here watching, joining, is there anything that this is your time. If you want to jump on, say anything, if you have any questions before we wrap up, now is the time. Giving you a minute. Feel free, you can just unmute yourself. Oh, Nadine said, I think I said it. We appreciate you, Nadine. All right, so I think we've definitely had a lot of feedback in the chats. Thank you all.
Wait, before you go, I just want to tell Nadine, yes, we always need an amen section, honey. Thank you so much, but you kept us going.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you all those on Facebook that have been watching. Thank you, Eve. I'm glad you were able to get us on Facebook. This will be recorded, so I'll make sure you know that you all have a copy. And once again, thank you for the 3rd annual Coffee Tea Chat. We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Really. Oh, she said, can we please tag your contacts? Did you all drop in the chat I'm glad you said that, Nadine. Yes, make sure you put in the chat your contact information. And anyone who is still in the room, make sure to grab that if you want. If you want to connect with anyone here. So whichever, I'll put mine here. Let's see. I just changed a lot of mine. So I think that's my new Instagram handle. So I'll give you guys a moment to grab that. Anybody who wants. And on Facebook, for those that are watching, I tagged each person in the comments, so you can definitely be sure to follow that way. All right. Well, ladies, enjoy. I feel like today's Friday. I was about to say enjoy your Friday. It's the beginning of we have a whole week ahead of us.
Thank you so much, Lita, for the invite. I enjoyed it, ladies.
Yes,
So
thank you all so much. This is wonderful.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you,
you.
ladies. I'm
Bye.
also glad it's midnight now.
Yeah, bye.
Eve, you got to make arrangements for me to come over there and serve with you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll connect with all of you
Let's
on
do it.
Instagram and Facebook. I'm just trying to take the names down before it. Do you know what? I'll connect with
And you should have in
Lisa.
the comments too, Eve. So
Let's do it.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
bye.
Everyone.